Hey everyone, have you ever wondered what it's really like to be an insurance adjuster? From catastrophe deployments across the country to handling daily claims in your own backyard. This industry offers incredible opportunities, but also a steep learning curve. In this very episode of the Adjuster Coach podcast, I'm breaking down what it takes to get started and set yourself up for long-term success. Welcome, everyone, to the Adjuster Coach podcast. I'm your host, Pablo Gonzalez, adjusting career coach, bilingual communicator, and someone who spent over 25 years in the insurance industry, helping more than 12,000 people become licensed insurance adjusters. This show is all about giving you the tools, the insight, and the encouragement to not just get licensed, but to build a sustainable and rewarding career. So if you're ready to learn, grow, and take control of your adjusting future, hit follow or subscribe wherever you're listening to this podcast. Today, we're going to cover everything you need to know to start your journey in the insurance adjusting world. We'll look at what an adjuster does, the difference between staff and independent adjusters, typical career paths, and why people make the switch. We'll also break down CAT claims versus daily claims, the skills and tools you'll need to become the complete package, and more importantly, how to get work without experience. Alrighty, guys, we're going to jump right in with, first of all, what is an adjuster? Now, there are different types of adjusters, no doubt. There are independent adjusters, staff adjusters, but there are also public adjusters. And I've never worked on the public side, but just to clarify, a public adjuster is someone who represents the homeowner, the claimant. So you have damages to your property and you're unsure that you're going to be able to handle the claim, or maybe you're going through the claims process and you don't feel comfortable, or maybe you feel you deserve, more money to repair or replace the damage. You can hire a public adjuster. And I think it's a great thing. I have nothing against public adjusters, but that's just not the side of the industry that I've worked with. I have worked with adjusters that represent the insurance company, either as an independent adjuster or as a staff adjuster. So a staff adjuster works for one company. They work for one carrier. So you're a Geico adjuster, you're a Progressive adjuster, you're an Allstate adjuster. You only handle claims from that carrier. It's typically more like a 9-to-5 job, and you'll have some sort of benefits and equipment, and sometimes they may even give you a car. But again, it's more like a corporate type of job. And I don't have anything against being staff adjuster, but really I always encourage individuals to try and start out as independent adjusters. That word independent is a bit misleading, where people think that you're on your own, knocking on the doors of insurance companies, trying to get claims from them. And that's not the way it works. An independent adjuster gets claims from independent adjusting firms. And you'll hear these as IA firms, or sometimes even TPAs, third-party administrators. So insurance companies up here, they give their claims to independent adjusting firms, and they will give those claims to adjusters that are on their roster. So to be on the roster of an independent adjusting firm, you just simply have to apply. It's digital paperwork, and being on a roster is usually confused with I'm working for an independent adjusting firm. And no, you're not. You're not working for an independent adjusting firm. You're on the roster and you're eligible to get claims from them. But there's quite a bit more that goes into that. And again, not trying to knock being a staff adjuster, but what I like about independent adjusting is that it gives you the independence, no pun intended, to handle as many claims from as many insurance companies as possible. And then, there is a lot of flexibility. It does pay a lot more, but the work ebbs and flows. So since a lot of the incoming claims are based on weather situations, you might work 6, 7, 8, 10 weeks, working 12 hours a day, and then things will slow down until something else happens. So there is an ebb and flow, but it does pay quite a bit better than staff adjusting pays. The easiest way to get into the industry as an independent adjuster is through what are called CAT claims, or catastrophe claims. Now, that word CAT or catastrophe is a little dramatic. And yes, hurricanes, fires, floods, tornadoes, all those type of weather events are obviously going to bring in a lot of claims. But there are some weather events that never make national news that generate a lot of claims. I was born and raised in Miami. We moved to the South Carolina area about 2012, 2013. I had never heard of a hailstorm before. I mean, I had heard about it, but I had never experienced it. And the thing about a wide sweeping hailstorm is that it can generate a lot of damages, especially to vehicles. Because you can see a hurricane coming 3, 4 days down the road. I learned quickly that a hailstorm could develop within a couple of hours based on weather conditions. And again, a wide sweeping hailstorm can generate thousands and thousands of claims. And it's not really something that's going to make national news. But catastrophe claims or CAT claims, that's usually the greatest opportunity for someone, especially without experience, but that they've, have these credentials that we'll talk about later on, to get an opportunity and be deployed, as the industry calls it, to get claims. Now, the flip side to catastrophe claims are what are called daily claims. So daily claims, there are those things that have nothing to do with a weather event. Well, typically. So we're looking at water heater breaks and it floods your house. Or maybe it floods your apartment and you're on the third floor and it floods the apartment below you and the one below you. Or you are cooking, breakfast and you go outside to get your mail and you start talking to your neighbor. And before it, you have a kitchen fire. And, those are the types of claims that are considered daily claims. Now, typically, the independent adjusting firms that hire adjusters to handle their daily claims, they are expecting those adjusters to have some sort of experience. It can be overcome through networking, and especially if you have the right professional skills, but I think it's easier to overcome the experience requirement when you're doing CAT claims because of the necessity, because they just need so many people. And really what we're going to talk about here today is how to overcome that experience requirement. I have helped license, over 12,000 individuals. And typically that is the first question. How do I get work when everybody's asking for experience? And really, you're going to have to put two things together, which are your professional soft skills that you have from whatever industry you're coming from, and also credentials. And again, we'll talk about that in a little bit, but you have to become the complete package. You want an independent adjusting firm to look at your profile and say, all right, this person, they don't have experience, but they have all these professional skills from, whatever they've been doing before. Maybe you're a realtor, maybe an insurance agent, maybe you're from the finance industry. Obviously, we get a lot of people from the trades and contractors and those type of things. So this person has great professional skills from this area, and they also have the credentials, which we'll talk about later on. But typically, your home state license, software trainings, certifications. So you've become the complete package. You're a well-rounded individual. The only thing you're missing is experience. And so they'll take a chance on you. They'll give you an opportunity to handle those claims from them, because you are this complete package. All you're missing is experience, and they'll give you that experience hoping that you'll work out for them. And so I think, when you get some sort of major weather event and, Mother Nature seems to just keep coming all the time, that's a great opportunity to come into the industry, regardless of whether you have experience or not. Daily claims is a great way to make money. It's a great, career path. But again, typically the independent adjusting firms that hire those folks are looking for people with experience. You can circumvent that experience. There's a great website, the National Association of Independent Insurance Adjusters, NAIIA.com. If you go in there and you do a member search and then you do a search by state, it'll bring out all the independent adjusting firms near you. And what you can do is you can network with them in the sense of, once you have some credentials, like your licensing and software training, reach out to companies and say, hey, my name is Pablo. I have my license. I'm, Xactimate trained and certified. Can I shadow one of your adjusters? Can I ride along with one of your adjusters? Can I come in and talk to you about the industry? Because I do get a lot of folks that tell me, I really want to be a field adjuster and I would love to handle CAT claims, but my youngest child is just starting their senior year. Or the one that I get a lot is, I'm in a career right now, I'm in a job right now that pays me really well, and I can't leave from one day to the next. So I want to ease my way into this. And again, daily claims could be a good route for you. It's going to require quite a bit of effort as far as networking those things. It's not impossible. But I think catastrophe claims is always going to be the best route for those newbies that are trying to get into the industry because, as terrible as it sounds, they'll send anybody with a warm body and a pulse and a license and some other credentials and kind of let natural selection take its place. And sometimes, people get blinded by the money in this industry, and the money used to be a lot better. It's still good money, but it used to be a lot better. But people get blinded by the money, and they show up and they last 2-3 weeks, and then they start falling out. And then, those other people that are really, making the best of the situations are the ones that stick around and make a career out of it. And I'm not trying to dissuade you from looking at daily claims. And definitely, I don't want to make it seem that I don't think that the staff adjuster career path is a good path. I just think the independent adjuster path through CAT claims, that's going to be the best way to get into the industry. And we'll talk in a little bit about how the catastrophe, deployment works, but it's really going to require a lot of flexibility. Even if you're doing desk inside remote adjusting, because that's another aspect of this industry. It's not just going out in the field. Desk adjusting or working remotely as an inside adjuster, there's many ways of calling it, has been very popular for a really long time. But of course, after the lockdowns in 2020, it became more and more popular. And so there is a lot of independent adjusting opportunities to be a desk adjuster. That can be very rewarding as well. But I think, what you have to understand is that it's still going to ebb and flow. You're still going to have periods where you're going to be working lots and lots of claims. And then as those claims start subsiding, then there's going to be less and less work. And then you have to move on to something else. And we'll talk again a little bit more about different types of opportunities once you started doing CAT claims and different sectors of the industry that you can use to, supplement your income as an adjuster. Hey everyone. So as you know, I just started this podcast and I'm really excited about the conversation we're having here. The industry is actively looking for quality, not quantity. And so I just want to let you know that I work with adjusters one-on-one, coaching them through my site, theadjustercoach.co. I've been in some aspect of the insurance industry over 25 years, and in that time, I've helped license over 12,000 individuals. But here's what I've learned. Just getting a license is only the first step. I help folks look after that to building a resume, getting connected with the right IA firms, and figuring out the best training for where you want to go. My goal is to help you to get working faster with more confidence and to be there to keep you on track. If that sounds like something you need, check out theadjustercoach.co. You'll find all the information there on coaching calls, resume help, and more. Again, that's theadjustercoach.co. If you've already gotten your adjuster's license, but you're stuck wondering how to actually get work, check out IA Path. They created the experience-free career path for independent adjusters so that you can get trained, certified, and actually land work without experience or having to wait for the next hurricane. They have over 50 IA firm agreements that waive the experience requirement for IA Path grads. It's not just a course, it's a career launching system. Start your journey at iapath.com and use the discount code Pablo at checkout. Good to have you back, guys. Again, we're talking about how to become an independent adjuster without experience, how to break into the adjusting industry. I always talk about becoming this complete package, this set of professional skills and credentials. Now, let's talk about professional skills first, the things that you're going to bring to the table from your previous professional experience. First and foremost, you must have excellent customer service and communication skills. And really, That's a bit redundant. Like, how can you have good customer service skills if you don't have good communication skills? But your communication and customer service skills are going to go in many directions. When you start out, you're going to be in an adjusting team with an adjusting team manager. You're going to have to deal with people in HR and IT and training. There might be people from the insurance carrier there kind of looking over everybody's shoulder, making sure their claims are being handled correctly. You're going to need excellent customer service skills when you deal with claimants, because you're going to be dealing with people that are basically on two sides of a spectrum, in the sense of they might have mild to moderate damage on their property, and they're kind of annoyed because now, life stops, got to take care of this. On the other end, you're going to deal with people that are at the lowest point in their life because they've lost everything that they own. And I'll give you a couple examples to illustrate this. For example, Hurricane Helene came by September of 2024, pretty much had a bullseye on my neighborhood. And we had minor damage, fencing, landscaping, siding, some shingles, those type of things. Nothing too out of control. But what it made me realize, which I had completely forgotten ever since we moved out of Southeast Florida 12 years beforehand, was the collateral damage that claimants go through. So yes, in order to provide great customer service, you need to know what you're doing. You need to be well trained so that you can look at the policy and use your training skills, your software skills to be able to repair or replace the damage to the property to the best of your ability. I mean, that's great customer service. When you know what you're doing, that's great customer service. But there is what we call collateral damage. And what do I mean by this? Well, in my case, as some of you may know, I have 9 kids under the age of 18. Hurricane Helene hit on a Thursday. Well, it was really Friday AM around 2 or 3 in the morning. And we were totally unprepared for it. And so we had to, hurricane hits, lights are off, trees everywhere, streets are blocked. We really didn't have, as much food as we should have. We couldn't get around the neighborhood. So me, my 18 and 17-year-old, we jumped our back fence and walked about 2 miles to a Target that was the only place that was open because they had generators on. And so we took a couple of black bags, landscaping trash bags, and filled them up with as much food as we could, and we brought it back to the house. There was obviously no electricity, no water, no gas. The adjuster shows up and they start doing their job. I don't mention anything about being in the industry for years or licensing thousands of adjusters. I just kind of sit back and, listen to how this person, goes through the claim. And they did have excellent customer service skills. They examined the property. They asked me, over and over, because they saw I had a huge family. They're like, "Are you guys okay? Is everything okay?" They saw that there was damage that I hadn't seen. So, they were able to point out things that I hadn't seen. But again, they kept asking if everything was all right. Mentioned that FEMA was giving $750. Once I got, internet back, you can go to this website and, and get your money from FEMA. That the Red Cross was about a mile away at a Baptist church. That there was places where they were giving out water and those type of things. So they had, they had what I called a servant's attitude, not just service, but a servant's attitude. And we're trying to make sure that not only were they going to put everything back together, but that me and my family we were well and we were, safe, and where we could find extra resources in case we needed something. The flip side to that is when you meet somebody who has lost everything that they own. We have some friends of ours that lived about 30 minutes or so north from us, in a little town called Saluda. And they lived on the top of the mountainside. So basically neighborhood, mountainside, river, then the other mountain in another neighborhood. 9 kids as well. We tend to birds of a feather, although most of their kids are older. But they really misjudged the storm. And they had a lot of houses in the neighborhood that were completely destroyed. Their oldest daughter, who's a really good friend with my oldest son, was saying that as the water was rising from the river, it felt like it was eating the mountain because the water was rising, and then trees would just fall into the water and mud would just fall into the water. So the father took everybody back into the house. Then they moved into the second floor. Then they moved into the attic. And, by the grace of God, the water stopped, the storm stopped, the water started receding, and they were safe. Nobody got hurt. So they have a neighbor who's a retired firefighter who happened to have a Starlink. And so they put messages out saying, hey, we need help. We're stuck in the mountain. A 7-member mountain team comes up. They come like hiking all the way up to them. They get them. They're like, there is absolutely no way we're going to be able to take you down this mountain. So they took them to a clearing, and a Black Hawk helicopter took them out and took them to another town about another 20 minutes north called Hendersonville. And there, some other friends lent them a van. They were actually that week, ironically, they were moving into another house, which the house had not had any damage, but it didn't have electricity, it didn't have water. When they got to the other house, several of us from our church and friends, we brought them food and some water and some supplies and some things like that. And when I spoke to the father, I asked him, wow, that must have been pretty traumatic. That must have been very difficult. And he looked at me and he said, the clothes that I'm wearing it's the only thing I have left. I don't even know where my cars are at. And those are some of the situations that you're going to find yourself in, where you're showing up to an area where there's homeowners, police, maybe National Guard, and adjusters. And people have lost everything that they own. The original picture of their great-great-grandparent, or wedding pictures, pets, and Lord forbid, a relative. And so, yes, you're there to repair and replace the damage. But your customer service skills are going to go in a lot of different directions. And one thing that in my groups, we have these discussions of friends that are in the industry, and I always say the same thing. And a lot of people disagree with me, but I don't think you could teach that. I don't think you can teach customer service skills. I don't think you can teach having a servant's heart, to be honest with you. I think people just have it within them. And if you do have that, I think it's a great match for this industry, because you're literally going to be putting a roof over people's heads in one of the most difficult situations. And let me be clear. Yes, losing your house completely, it being washed away, that's terrible. But when you meet that homeowner that has that mild to moderate damage, that's terrible for them as well. So it's a stressful situation. And, and it's not like the claimants are going to be in an adversarial position. They're not going to be angry at you. On the contrary, they're going to be extremely happy to see you, but they are going to be stressed because, again, their lives has been affected by some sort of, weather event, and now they have to put their lives back together, and you are part of that. So if you have those skills, if you have that attitude, you'll do well in this industry. So definitely customer service and communication skills. When it comes to the actual claim, you want to be able to tell the story. So in order to justify the policy covering those damages, because you have to realize that you have a responsibility to the insurance company as well. And so you have to be able to tell a story. You have to be able to say, these damages came from the storm because this, that, and the other. So that's very important. You also, you have to be organized. You really do. You have to be organized in the sense that you're going to have to, schedule your appointments, routing, even just routing where you're going to go. You don't want to go to one property at 7 a.m. in the morning to go somewhere all the way across town at 10 a.m. to come all the way across town at 1 p.m. to go all the way to somewhere else at 4 p.m. So, even just being organized in that sense, this industry says document. So you got to take lots of pictures. You want to label them with the claimant's last name and the claim number. So you definitely want to do that. And, you have to also understand that, you have to be coachable. You have to understand that you're going to be stretched professionally, that you're going to grow. As I mentioned earlier, I get people from all sorts of backgrounds that are interested in becoming adjusters. People from finance, from education, law enforcement, contractors. I mean, all types of professional backgrounds. And they've been doing something for, 15, 20, 25 years. And now they're going to do something completely different. So it's obvious to, that you're going to have some sort of fear of the unknown. You're going to be worried if you're going to be able to do this the right way. But you just have to understand that, yes, you're going to be stretched professionally and that you're going to grow professionally. And the first 30 days are, learning curve is an understatement. We call it organized chaos. And you're going to be stretched a lot. But if you understand that you're going to show up with the right set of professional skills and the right credentials, you'll do fine. And you'll learn, quite a bit on how to do the job when you get out there and you're deployed. So once you understand the professional skills that are required, the next step is the credentials. Now, this is where people make the biggest mistake. They think that they're just going to get a license and that's it. I'm just going to get a license and wait for that hurricane, then I'm going to get work. And that's absolutely false. The license is the first step. You have to get licensed in your home state, whatever your home state requires. Every home state is different. There are 16 states that do not license adjusters. So if you live in a non-licensing state, you want to get what's called a designated home state license, or a DHS license for short. You can do Texas or you could do Florida, and you designate them. But getting your home state license or getting a designated home state license, and typically people from non-licensing states tell me, well, my state doesn't license. Why do I need a license? It's going to give you what's called reciprocity or reciprocal privileges, which means that you'll simply be able to pay a fee for other states' licenses. So you live in Florida and you get your Florida license, and then a Hurricane Helene goes through the Gulf and through Florida, Georgia, North, South Carolina, Virginia, and West Virginia. Except for Virginia, all those other states require licensing. And in order for you to get a non-resident license from those other states as a Florida resident, once you have your Florida resident license, you simply pay a fee. And those states will grant you their license. And if you're a field adjuster, reciprocity is important. If you're a desk adjuster, reciprocity is life or death, because you could be, again, working in Florida, handling claims in Utah, West Virginia, Wyoming, Montana, anywhere across the country that requires a license for handling claims. You won't be able to touch that claim unless you have their non-resident license. So it is important that the first step is to get your home state license. And again, I've talked a couple of times about this. You want to become that complete package. The next step is to quickly buy some non-resident licenses from states that I believe are tier 1 states. So you have like Texas, east to Florida, north to North Carolina, that big L. That's important. There is a lot of opportunity in the Pacific Northwest because there's just not that many adjusters out there, and there's plenty of work nationwide. But that L from Texas to Florida, north to North Carolina, quite a bit happens throughout the year, especially during hurricane season. So those are important licenses to have, and is an easy way to quickly pad your resume. So you got your license, you got your non-resident tier 1 licenses. What's next? Next, you have to learn Xactimate. Xactimate is the software that the majority of the industry uses. Now, there are other softwares, especially CoreLogic, which used to be Symbility. Great software. But the majority of the industry does use Xactimate, and you need to get formal Xactimate training. I know people are very savvy and they know how to go on YouTube and see what people are doing, but that's just not going to cut it. You need to get formal Xactimate training, and then you want to get Xactimate certified. Xactimate, or the parent company Verisk, is the only company that can certify you, and they're going to test you. There's 3 levels, but to break into the industry, you definitely need level 1 and level 2 certification with Xactimate. And you can purchase those courses from Xactimate, from Verisk. I believe it's about $110, and you have up to a year to pass the exam. But again, as you can see, license, non-resident license, Xactimate trained, Xactimate level 1, level 2 certified. And really, I don't want to kind of, go off on a side conversation after, from this, but people often ask me, well, is Xactimate a software that can handle any type of claim? And no, it's only for buildings, residential and commercial buildings, which again, I I think you have to, by becoming a complete package, I mean, bring in as many things to pad your resume to be able to show adjusting firms that you can, handle anything once given the opportunity. So I always encourage those interested in the industry to consider auto adjusting. Auto adjusting is a great way to get into the industry quickly. And we'll talk about that after our next break. I'll go into what a great way to get started as an adjuster by doing auto claims. Hey guys, this episode is brought to you by Open Road Coffee, proudly based in the mountains of Columbus, North Carolina, built on a foundation of premium, organically grown, farmer direct beans, and a commitment to extraordinary customer service experience. Open Road Coffee backs their products with 100% guarantee. Stan Yoder is a friend of mine. He is the founder, and he is known for his meticulous approach to coffee, which is meaning obsessive. We joke around that he talks to the beans. But in all seriously, it is the best coffee out there. And after Hurricane Helene, Stan suffered damage to his home and to his coffee shop. They even had a sinkhole in the parking lot. But he was up and running within 4 days, serving the community, adjusters, first responders. And, as a thanks to Stan, I hope that all of you can go to openroadcoffeeroastery.com and use the discount code CAFE, CAFE, and get 10% off your next order. Again, openroadroasterycoffee.com, and you can grab a cup, support a great business, enjoy the journey, and fuel it with Open Road Coffee. And we're back, guys. And again, I was talking about becoming the complete package and how to get work as an adjuster. And most of the conversation tends to be for property claims, buildings, residential and commercial. But I think a great part of the industry is auto adjusting. I mean, auto adjusting is just, well, let's face it, there's 19,000 car accidents a day in this country. So there's plenty of opportunity, but it's easier entry to the industry. It's quite, there's a lot of remote opportunity to be working as an auto adjuster. For those of you that may be a little hesitant about getting up on a roof, you don't have to get up on a roof if you're an auto adjuster. And, as we saw earlier, one of our sponsors, IA Path, great company. If you want to be an auto adjuster, I encourage you to look at that. So we've been talking about becoming a complete package. How do you get work with experience? So you've gotten your license, non-resident license, you got software trained, whether you're doing homes or auto. Now what? Well, now is when the fun begins. You have to network. And networking, guys, it's not a bad word. It's not public speaking. It's just talking to people, building relationships, following up. There is a thought. But you want to apply to as many independent adjusting firms as possible. You want to take as many of their trainings as possible. These adjusting firms, I mean, I could just mention, Pilot, CNC, Eberls, Alacrity, Renfro, Crawford, Team One, Alcat. I mean, all these companies, they have all sorts of trainings that are going to help you, do well as an adjuster. And so once you start applying to these firms, and once you do the digital application and paperwork and you're in their system, that's when I would call over there and network with them in the sense of, hey, what training do you recommend that I should take in order to be able to get claims from you as quickly as possible? Because some of these companies have so much training, you can just kind of get lost, in all of it. But, trying to figure out what's the best training for you. They offer certifications, carrier-specific certifications. That's a perfect excuse to call over there and start a conversation and say, hey, I'm on your roster or on your reserve roster, or I just applied and, I was told that I was on standby, whatever it is. What training would you recommend that I take so that I can get work quicker? So definitely they're going to offer you different types of certifications. There are other companies, out there that offer advanced training. As I mentioned, IA Path is great if you want to do auto. Adjuster TV, Matt Allen has a great catalog of courses. He has what's called the Fast Track to Deployment certification. You can go if you want to do in-house hands-on training. There's a company called MOCAT out of Missouri. Calvin Newman over there's got a great job. He's got a great program over there. Obviously, you have to see what's best for you as far as online or in-house. But again, MOCAT has got great in-house training. You want to network in the sense of going to conventions. I mean, the National Association of Catastrophe Adjusters, the National Convention, that is one of the best networking opportunities for new adjusters to either get work or be literally guided as to what it's going to entail to get work from the adjusting firms that participate in this convention. When I was there in February of this year, what was interesting to me was there were two things. Number one, every single IA firm said the same thing. We don't want people calling us and asking us, hey, how do I get work from you? I just applied and I see that I'm, on your list. No, they want people to call us and ask for us to direct them to the right training that's going to benefit them the most and the quickest. And I think one of the advantages of being a newbie in this industry is that you don't have to. That's not to say that, adjusters with 10 and 15 years of experience can't do the job. Of course they can. They have a ton of experience. But sometimes those people have to unlearn some bad habits or situations in order to start, because this industry is constantly changing. Whereas if you get new adjusters and you start training them exactly the way you want them to handle your claims, sometimes that's easier and that's a benefit. And the other great thing about the NACA convention is I remember they said there were like 370 adjusters there. I don't know exactly where it is in 2026. This year was in Arkansas, but people often scoff at the idea of, like flying and spending 4 days at a convention in a hotel room and food. But in February, there were only 370 adjusters there. And I'm telling you, every IA firm was there, every vendor, training, continuing education opportunities. Of course, NACA offers tons of great things, but there was 370 adjusters there on a convention of a national level. That is very little competition. And that's where you get to meet and greet and shake hands with the people that are going to put you to work. So going to NACA is just a great opportunity to be able to, first of all, interview with all these independent adjusting firms. And I'm always there helping people with mock interviewing and tips for their resume and those type of things. But it's where you get to meet and greet those that are going to put you to work. And again, this idea that just having a license and waiting for that major weather event to come is going to get you work, absolutely not going to happen. You have to network. And networking, again, it's not that difficult. It's just talking to people and following up with people. And you want to network online as well. So very important to look at Facebook groups, although some Facebook groups, you kind of have to be a little bit careful with. Definitely, I would encourage you to look at LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a great professional community for people that are in the adjusting industry. There's tons of opportunity to learn. Tons of independent adjusting firms are constantly putting out content as to, trainings and things that they expect from their adjusters and things that they want to see from their adjusters. So, online networking is also very important. But I will say that by far the best thing that you can do, so you've got your license, you're software trained, you started picking up some of these certifications and trainings from some of the independent adjusting firms, you've applied to a lot of firms, you're online, different networking groups, but by far the best thing that you can do, the best thing is to find yourself a mentor, someone that you can shadow or ride along. And what I love about the independent adjusting industry is that there are a lot of very generous people. Peer-to-peer coaching is just, again, People are very generous with their time and with what they know, and the industry needs that. What you have to realize is that the work lifespan of an adjuster is not very long. Typically, this is a second career for most people. Typically, they're working about 10 years or so, and that may seem long, but it isn't. The industry would love to have people coming in earlier and being here 30, at least 20 years. So what happens is you get a lot of people retiring every year. And so it's important to network, to shadow, to ride along with somebody, to kind of pass that knowledge on to other people. And many in the industry, they understand that, and they're very generous with their time. It's not easy. Not everybody's just willing to take you on. There are certain groups out there, especially on Facebook and on LinkedIn, where they'll offer up to, kind of have you shadow them for a day or so. There are people in my network that will actually let you shadow them for a week or so. You'd have to pay your way up there. It's not, it's not paid training, it's not work, but you can't put a price on that. So finding a mentor, finding somebody that's going to take you under their wing, that's probably one of the most important things to do in this industry. And if you do get that opportunity, I would take it and run with it, because quite a bit of this is a process. It's not a 9-to-5 job. It doesn't hire the same way, but it's a process. So you've heard me say, you got to get your license. You got to get software trained and certified. You got to get non-resident licenses. You got to get trained. So it's a process. And then people usually ask, well, how long do you think it'll take me to find work? Well, that really depends on you. But, the process could take a while. And if you do things the right way, it could take 3 months, 8 months, or 18 months. It just depends on so many different situations. The key is to continue to move forward every day and to be all in if you're going to do this. This idea of being an independent adjuster, part-time, it's not really going to happen, to be honest with you. That doesn't mean that you have to quit your job and focus on everything completely, but I'm talking about being all in the sense of every day doing something moving forward that's going to help you find work, whether it's a certification, another training, a few phone calls, and, educating yourself. There's so much out there now. When I first started helping people get into the industry right after Hurricane Sandy, there was very little. I think Adjuster Pro, we had a blog, and there was a couple of other people that were writing things, but nothing like we see today. And today, just go on YouTube, podcasts like this one. There's a lot of industry leaders that are putting out a lot of content. There's so much information out there to educate yourself and to get guidance. But you have to take action. You have to be able to be coachable. You have to be able to listen and do the things that people like myself and other leaders are telling you to do in order to get work. And that is a process. It takes time. And that's why I always say it's not like your 9-to-5 job, because a typical 9-to-5 job, you apply, you have an interview, then maybe a follow-up interview or two, and then you start working. And that's not the way independent adjusting is. It could take, again, 3 months, 9 months, 18 months. But if you stick to it, it's going to be extremely rewarding career. Guys, first of all, thank you very, very much for tuning in to the first episode of the Adjuster Coach podcast. I am so grateful you're here and you're listening to this podcast. Just to do a little bit of recap, again, if you want to become an independent adjuster, you definitely want to make sure you have the right soft skills. You want to have the right credentials. You want to become that complete package. And then network. So again, thank you very much for being here. You can find me on LinkedIn, YouTube under the Adjuster Coach. But please follow me on LinkedIn. I think LinkedIn is the best social media platform for this industry. You can always find me in there. You can find me also at the adjustercoach.co. You can go there as well. And just so you know, I would appreciate it if you subscribe, review, share, leave comments, pass this along to people that are discerning becoming independent adjusters. And stay tuned for our second episode. We have Julian Badillo, who is he's a technology guru, to be honest with you, but more than anything, he goes through a great explanation of what a day in the life of an adjuster is. So now you've learned what it is to get into the industry. With Julian, we'll go over the ups and downs of a day in the life. Thanks again, guys, for being here. This episode is sponsored by Adjuster Pro, your trusted resource for insurance, adjuster licensing, and training. Whether you're starting out or you need continuing education, Adjuster Pro offers everything you need to meet your licensing requirements with confidence. Thank you to our listeners. Feel free to go to adjusterpro.com/Pablo and use the discount code Pablo5. It'll take off 5% and not charge you taxes. But again, go to adjusterpro.com/Pablo for all your licensing and training needs. And before we wrap up, guys, if you're ready to take your adjusting career to the next level, check out my coaching services at theadjustercoach.co. Don't just get licensed, get deployed, and get coached. If you have any questions or any guidance, you can find all my information there. Feel free to email me to theadjustercoach@gmail.com. But again, theadjustercoach.co. Feel free to come visit my website, be coached, and get into this industry.